Okay.
Hi, I'd like to welcome all of you back to Parliamentary Ponderings. It has been some time, and I have with me a very dear friend, the Honourable Tasmina Ahmed Sheikh, former Member of Parliament from the UK House of Commons. Hi, Taz, how are you?
I'm fine, Marvi, fine, and it's lovely to be on your programme. First time for me, and actually,
Yes.
as we proceed to discuss, it's been a week of firsts, more than a week of firsts actually, and I think today we're going to discuss the election of the first Muslim mayor of New York, currently mayor-elect,
Yes,
Danny.
absolutely.
But I suppose it's quite apt because, as you say, I was a member of Parliament in the House of Commons. I was the first woman of colour, the first Muslim woman, also in Scottish history ever to be elected to the House of Commons, which sounds bizarre, but it took until 2015 for that to happen. And just last week, I was back at the Palace of Westminster at a dinner for 100 leaders, and I had the privilege of meeting, although we'd both been in Parliament in the Palace of Westminster together, our paths hadn't crossed. I met Lord Taylor, who was the first Black peer, in 1996, the only peer, I should say, to be in the House of Lords. So it's been a week and a bit of firsts.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, what has happened in New York has made me think. I think it begs a bigger question, if you may. I mean, what is going on with how the people view politicians, and what are the choices the people are making across the world, whether in New York or in Islamabad or in London or wherever we are. This is more a global question I have that I wanted to discuss with you, that people are making some choices based on their needs. Clearly, parliamentarians, politicians are not being able to come up to the mark in certain ways. So they're making some, what we might consider, some of us might consider extremist choices. So you have on one side the MAGA movement, and on the other side you have what they call the commie, which I find completely funny, but I mean in the sense that that is the extreme version of what we are seeing. There is a reaction to the action. What do you have to say to that?
I think there's two things that are happening, and you're right that the synergies are around the world. It doesn't matter, like you, Marvi, I speak in a lot of countries in the world on a lot of panels and diplomacy forums and other forums. And, we all think we're unique in our own little way in our countries, whether it's Scotland for me or the United Kingdom as a whole. But actually, human beings across the world are facing very similar circumstances and challenges. And many of us are angry at the failure of governments to properly represent us, the failure to deliver in an economic perspective. And all we really hear are excuses, so much the fallout of COVID is used as an excuse for so much. But, people are struggling to make ends meet. And so in that perfect storm of, for certain politicians, of those struggling to make ends meet, they see an opportunity of how they can use that to do down correctly the politicians who've been charged to make lives better, but at the same time find somebody or a group of people to blame, because that's an easy thing to do. So we've had a scapegoating, I would say, of certain people in society who are the ones to blame for everything. So we have that going on politically, but separately we have an absolute void in many countries in leadership. And I think what we've seen happen, what we saw happen in New York, was if you come up with an agenda untested and difficult to achieve, very visionary from the mayor-elect, but if you have that and you gain enough trust in the people to think you can deliver that, and you add that to what I think is the main thing that leadership needs, which is charisma, there's the opportunity to succeed. So I think in the world, whatever their politics are, charismatic leaders are going to win the day, because they gain the confidence of people by demonstrating that they have something exciting to deliver, and their personality is exciting and interesting. And we may not like the politics of those individuals. And I'm not talking about mayor-elect in particular, but if you look at certain leaders who've done well in the world and some who are up and coming, charisma, I think, is going to play a huge part in that success, because people are prepared to buy into that, because we want confidence,
I agree.
we want inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, your point on charisma is well taken. I completely agree. Other than charisma, in terms of leadership, they need answers to their problems. And what are the answers that politicians are giving? I mean, that in itself is at stake right now all across, because in terms of the politics of the right or the left, where is the center? Has the center been lost? These are questions that a lot of people are asking, but fundamentally, are the problems of the people of the different countries being resolved by just charisma? It's not charisma which is going to make us do better governance. You've been there. I've been there. We know that when you're in government, you need to deliver. And how do you deliver? You deliver through a system that you have inherited and that perhaps you are trying to fix. Half the time, you're trying to fix the system. And half the time, you're trying to chase certain targets, certain goals for the people. So it's one thing being in opposition, because I've been there, done that. And it's another thing being in on the treasury benches or being in government or being in the cabinet and actually delivering on the promises. So yes, it's one thing getting elected, but as we all know, it's quite a different thing delivering on those promises. And people, I feel, are very, very they don't just have short memories, but they're also very eager to get change immediately. So if they've voted someone in today, they wish to see a change really, really fast. And change does not necessarily happen super fast. I mean, we are legislators, former legislators. In our minds, we are legislators. We are still doing legislation at certain levels. And we understand that legislation takes time. It's a slow process. People want results really, really fast to some really important issues. Inflation, housing, the cost of living, peace in certain areas, the basic right to live, to eat, to breathe in other areas. I mean, I am putting in a lot on your plate, Taz. What do you have to say to that?
Well, you brought up a lot of topics. I mean, you start
Yeah.
first of all correctly by saying, charisma isn't enough. Correct. Charisma doesn't deliver good governance, but it delivers the opportunity of
Correct.
election to
Yes.
give you the chance to deliver on your promises. And I just feel that, when people are feeling, because successive governments in many countries across the world have let them down, they feel that they want to know that things can be better than they currently are. And I think when I talk about charisma, I actually mean with that charisma, I mean personality, I mean confidence, just making people feel that life can be better than it currently is. Sometimes just the simple 4-letter word hope is a lot. And hope means a lot, whether in some of the war-torn areas of this world, they need to know that hope still exists, or it means a lot if you can't put food on your table for your children. I mean, child poverty is a huge issue. That, you think, okay, something can be better, but then you look at the politicians currently charged with that and you think, actually, these people can't make a difference. And then you see somebody, you think, well, okay, let's give that person a chance. So that person gets a chance. But then again, the next point you made was about the speed of change. People want that. I mean, we're living in a society now where everything is, like fast food. Everything is fast. Everything is quick. Everything's at our fingertips. So people want change to happen quickly. And as we both know, it can take a long time if change is to have longevity. And if you are to get the results, it does take time to deliver those, but people are impatient. And I think that's why we see decisions being made by politicians, which are, okay, let's not say spur of the moment, but they're short-sighted, which means the long-term ambition can't be fulfilled. So we're stuck in the circle of not being able to make the long-term achievements that will bring the societal change that will make society better. So the world is facing so many issues in so many different ways, and there's an impatience of people. But to come back to the topic of today, you know, for want of a better word, in these sort of ramblings program that you're hosting here, I think from the perspective of America, you know, they want to see that there is a change that can happen. And I think that, you know, that the mayor-elect is indicating, where all felt lost for the Democrats on Trump's return, that perhaps there's a chance that if you push back, and if you push back with what looks like leadership and change, then, you know, the change can be incremental, but it can happen.
The other thing that comes to my mind, and I'd like your thoughts on it, is the fact that who does he belong to, the mayor-elect? He belongs to all of New York, clearly, right? So he is associating himself with everyone, and he is being inclusive. We have seen a lot of divisive, polarized politics in the past. Now, that is something that I personally associate with. You might not like what he has to say, but if he is something to everyone, that is a good thing, is it not? Because clearly, if you are going to be excluding people from politics, from the narrative, you are creating a very divisive society. And we have seen that in the past with equally charismatic leadership. So you can keep charisma to one side, but is this charismatic leadership producing unity or division within the political space? To me, that's a huge problem. What is the other? This whole concept of creating hatred or fear of the other. And I'm now not going into the larger questions of immigration that the world is facing, because I'm sure we'll have time to discuss that with other friends soon. But genuinely, I feel that we need to answer the larger question of why is it that we always need to create the other to win ourselves. Perhaps the winning side is the inclusive side, which says we are there for all, and we have an agenda which should work for the majority, if not for all. Do you see which direction I'm going in? It's not, I mean, the fact that DEI has been, there's been a pushback on that. There's been so many firsts that we have all been part of, and then we're seeing those firsts being pushed back and rolled back in front of our eyes. And we don't wish to be left helpless in that situation. So I think if Mayor-elect Mamdani went from 1% to actually getting elected, maybe there's a lesson there that people have had enough of being divided. People have had enough of being told this is the other side versus us. This is better than the other side. Humanity. Who is talking about the larger concept of humanity? Over to you, Taz. What do you have to say?
Well, politics by definition is going to be divided because we have elections and we have democracies, because those wishing to serve the people have different ideas as to best achieve it. But the starting point should always be from the perspective that despite differing political views, we have to respect that our opponents are seeking also to serve the same people we wish to serve, but have a different idea as to how it should be done. So I embrace difference of opinion. I, unlike some, like to have political debate, and I, unlike some, enjoy and revel in it, but respect opponents' views. What has happened, which is what you're saying effectively, is having different views has been changed from or reframed from it's okay to have different views to if you have this view, you are wrong or you are not entitled to have this view. Yeah. And that's where we seem to have got ourselves in a number of situations, and that has bred the hatred about which you so correctly speak. You know, if you don't believe what I say is the only way, then you know your view's not valid. And we've seen that in Scotland. We've seen it. Let's just talk about women for a second. In Scotland, we've seen that where, unbelievably, women have had to stand up and say, we've been fighting for our rights for many years, and we're not about to accept a rollback of those rights.
Yeah.
We're just one group. So where I think the change happens between having the political views and holding office is the holding of office. Because once you win, then you have to serve everybody, whether it's your constituents with their different diverse views, or whether you're serving the state, the New York state, or whether you're serving the whole of the United States of America as the president. So then you have to change out of your political uniform into, I'm here, I'm a servant of the people, and it's my job to deliver for everybody. So on that note, I think regardless of our politics, we have to accept that the President of the United States of America is who he is, and therefore the office of the mayor-elect is going to have to find a way of working with the office
together
of the President of the United States of America. Because if both parties are saying we want to act in the best interest of the people, the service of those people is done by working together. You can have different views on how that should be done, but there will be some synergies. And so those synergies.
No, I agree. I mean, the best thing I think you said so far, which I really liked, was the fact that there's freedom of speech and there's freedom of thought. You have a right to think differently. You have a right to speak differently. It's okay. And everyone will not speak in unison. We are not robots tuned to the same tune. But the fact that that space is being reduced, that is alarming. And that is what we should raise our voices up for, that no, it's okay to have a difference of opinion. We should listen to a difference of opinion. And I think diversity is the wealth. I mean, if you don't have those diverse views, you're not going to get any productive results as such. A word comes to my mind, cohabitation. The famous cohabitation that President Mitterrand and Prime Minister Chirac shared long time back. And that was perhaps in my early formative years when I was schooling and in Paris, that I remember that. It was an experiment. These experiments, and we are seeing them now again, where you have to have a cohabitation, you have to live together to be able to deliver to your constituents. Now, whether you do it brutally through force, you do it gently, or you do it politely with dignity and grace, that's a separate issue. We're lacking a lot of dignity and grace that we used to see in politics. I have a really serious issue with that.
Yes.
You can have a difference of opinion, but you do not need to bully anyone into believing otherwise. I have been there for, let's say, 2 tenures in Parliament. I am 53 this year, and I have seen it going down and down and down, and the way people look at politicians all over the world. When we all get together in these different conferences, we have a lot in common. There's a lot of politics is not necessarily a good word. We need to make it a good word. That in itself is an issue, What are we doing to make politics a good word is the larger problem, perhaps.
I recently hosted a forum which you attended in Scotland.
Yes.
And as part of that forum of representatives from 22 countries, no less, we had an event in the Scottish Parliament hosted by the presiding officer. And in that event, the former president of North Macedonia, President Georgi Ivanov, made a wonderful point. He said, why have people in power, politicians, stop being nice to each other? Why is it not possible to create an atmosphere where we can have discourse that can be disagreeable but respectful? Because the lack of seemingly an ability to do that in many countries in the world has meant that the populations of those countries also think it's okay not to be nice to each other. When in actual fact, we have the common denominator. You used the word humanity, which is a very important word. In the main, Marvi, we need to remember, I think the majority of people in this world are good, want to do good, and are kind. Unfortunately, those who are less so are highlighted. And it can appear that most of the world is bad when actually most of the world wants to be good. So perception's an important thing. How things are reported is also really, really key, because what we see in the media very much influences what our attitudes to things are. And you made the words you used, which is really important, was difference. So difference in politics is okay. And the minute we start to say it's not okay to hold certain views, that's a problem, because then difference isn't celebrated. And then that trickles into difference in colour, difference in appearance, difference in just life, how you want to conduct yourself in life. And that translates into people not liking people of colour, or people not liking people who are black, or people not liking Muslims or Christians or Jews, etc. And then it doesn't end, because we've started the spiral of saying it's not okay to be different. We must all be the same, and we must all be one way. And I think we're seeing the trickle effect of all of this now. And, you just bring it to social media, Marvi. I am sure, like me, like we will be when you play this out, we get lots of negative, horrible comments, primarily because we're women with a view, and we might have different views to people who are watching. And we've just descended into this, and we have to recover. And we have to have people now in positions of authority who can demonstrate there is a different way that's positive, that's respectful, that's engaging, that's inspirational, because it's there.
Yes.
It just
and maybe that is and maybe that is the charisma that you are talking about. I think if we can just end on this, that if we are talking about charismatic leadership, it cannot be leadership which divides. It needs to be leadership which unites. It needs to be leadership which is graceful and not abusive. Because if you are leading and you are abusive, clearly the followers are going to be equally abusive, right? It's kind of natural. So there needs to be some moral compass there for all politicians to say, if we are leading, we need to lead by example. And if you're leading by example, you cannot go down to that level of being reducing the narrative into a fist fight on social media, on the streets, in parliament, anywhere, just because there's a difference of opinion. Like I said, differences need to be celebrated, not and something good needs to come out of the differences. Some kind of consensus building. That is how we were taught politics. But that is not how politics is panning out. And on that, I think we shall end today's session. And I look forward to a lot more conversations with you and our other colleagues and friends from all over, North and South. Looking forward to that. Thanks a lot, Taz, for being on Parliamentary Pondering. Till next time. Bye-bye.